In the vast world of coffee, one brew stands apart, not just for its price, but for its extraordinary journey from bean to cup. Revered by connoisseurs and whispered about by the curious, this rare delicacy is known as Kopi Luwak. Nicknamed cat poop coffee, its story begins in the jungles of Southeast Asia, where wild civet cats play an unexpected role in its creation. After selecting and eating the ripest coffee cherries, the civet's unique digestive system transforms the beans in a way that alters their flavor profile entirely. Once considered the most exclusive and expensive coffee in the world, Kopi Luwak faced several waves of criticism in the past decades, leading to a tarnished image. To uncover the truth behind this mysterious and controversial beverage, I traveled thousands of kilometers to Indonesia and the island of Bali, home to some of the world's most prized Kopi Luwaks. Along the way, I met with farmers, producers, and experts to trace the journey of this amazing coffee. Welcome to Kopi Luwak, the brown gold of Indonesia. Our journey to learn more about Kopi Luwak starts in Ubud, the cultural capital of Bali, home to artists and artisans renowned across the whole island. There, by talking to the locals, I learned more about the history of coffee in Bali. Coffee cultivation in Indonesia began in the late 1600s, during the early Dutch colonial period, and has played an important part in the growth of the country. Indeed, coffee was introduced to Indonesia by the Dutch as part of their effort to establish a profitable export crop through the Dutch East India Company. The first Arabica coffee plants were brought from Yemen and initially cultivated in Java, where the Dutch established large plantations using forced labor. From Java, coffee cultivation eventually spread to Bali, likely in the early 18th century, particularly in the Kintamani Highlands, where the volcanic soil, high altitude, and tropical climate created ideal growing conditions. In Bali, coffee was not grown on the same industrial scale as in Java or Sumatra, and cultivation remained relatively small scale, often intertwined with other crops in agroforestry systems. It remained a subsistence or smallholder crop until the 80s, when the Indonesian government and international development programs began promoting Arabica coffee cultivation in Bali. In 2002, Kintamani Arabica coffee became the first Indonesian coffee to be granted geographical indication status, giving it legal protection and increasing global awareness of Balinese coffee. With growing global interest in specialty coffee, Bali started to gain recognition for its highland Arabica, organic farming practices, and unique cultural farming system. With the development of coffee in Bali, Kopi Luwak gained popularity too in the island, even if its production was often criticized. For many years, Kopi Luwak remained an obscure local delicacy, known primarily within the region of its origin. Its existence was largely unrecognized by the wider world until March 1981, when National Geographic published a feature article titled "The Bonanza Bean Coffee" by Starbird. This marked the first significant mention of the coffee in Western media. It was then first imported to the West by the British coffee trader Tony Wild, which further contributed to this coffee becoming accessible to the wider public. Gradually, interest began to swell. The turning point came with its exposure in popular culture, most notably when Oprah Winfrey brewed a cup live on air. And later, when the film The Bucket List featured it as a symbol of indulgence and rarity.
Kopi Luwak, the rarest beverage in the world. Take a whiff.
From that point onward, Kopi Luwak captured the imagination of coffee aficionados and casual consumers alike. It quickly rose to prominence, becoming one of the most coveted and expensive coffees in the world, sparking both fascination and controversy across the global market. While the Ubud area certainly didn't like coffee plantations advertising their Kopi Luwak, it took me some time and effort to get responses for my interview's request among local farmers. In the end, I was invited by a local plantation owner for an unfiltered conversation about the realities of producing Kopi Luwak. He runs a charming and locally rooted establishment called Negari, a coffee shop and plantation where visitors are welcomed to walk among the trees, witness the process firsthand, and discover how each bean makes its remarkable journey from forest floor to steaming cup. It was a beautiful place, and I was in luck as the coffee trees were already bearing fruits.
My name is Putu. This is the Negari Balinese house and Kopi Luwak. This area is outside of Ubud, Bali, Indonesia. We start coffee business, starting from our grandma, which is we selling and one coffee. We start to. It's like a Robusta coffee. We're selling to the village, and then after the village, we start to bring to the hotel in Kuta area about 1980 till 1990. So during that time, we supply to some hotel in Kuta, but it's unfortunately the big company come to provide the hotel with their coffee machine, and then the hotel stop take our coffee product. So we stop on that time. We just open something else, and then we just have an idea to open this place about 12 years ago to make something different, which is like educating place, and then also they can try some of our product here, and if they are happy with our product, and then they can buy for themselves as a souvenir or for themselves to drink.
One topic I was interested in hearing more about was the history of Kopi Luwak. After all, this coffee is made from beans found in the feces of civet cats. How in the world did people think of making coffee with it?
The worker on that time, it is the local people. They're not allowed to take the coffee cherry from the tree, directly from the tree, and then they found the coffee lamb, and then from the lamb they process for themselves to drink, and then when they drink the coffee, they got surprised because the taste is very smooth, it's not bitter at all, and then they start to introduce to the other people to drink. Most of the people, they really like it also, and then starting the time, they're searching every morning the coffee lamb, and then they have make the investigation where the coffee lamb came from, and then finally they knew from the animal, because the animal eat during the night time. So it's already been discovered about 18th century.
Since the 18th century, science has improved, and researchers have been working hard to uncover what makes civet coffee so distinctive. Researchers have delved into the biological processes that occur within the civet's digestive system. The journey begins with the civet's natural instinct to select only the ripest and most flavorful coffee cherries, a choice that already set the stage for a higher quality bean. Once consumed, the cherries undergo a 12-hour fermentation process inside the civet's digestive tract, where enzymes break down proteins and carbohydrates. subtly transforming the bean's chemical makeup. Simultaneously, gut microbes, particularly lactic acid bacteria, further ferment the beans, contributing to the development of their unique flavor profile. Though the beans themselves remain undigested, this combination of selective feeding, enzymatic activity, and microbial fermentation results in a coffee unlike any other, shaped by the complex inner workings of the civet's digestive system. But having said all of that, what does it taste like?
The taste is very, very smooth compared to the other coffee, any other coffee, and very smooth. It's not bitter at all, and also there is a benefit to drinking the coffee. Normally, any type of coffee is always can raise the blood pressure, and then the Luwak coffee doesn't. It can lower your heart rate, and we call that as the relaxing coffee for the Luwak coffee. It's very, very unique. First of all, it's from the process, it gets through the animal.
Due to its unique complex production process, Kopi Luwak is produced in very limited quantities. As a result, prices can range from $50 to over $500 per kilogram, earning it a place among the most expensive coffees in the world. But this rarity also makes it a prime target for fraud. With minimal traceability, counterfeit versions of Kopi Luwak are widespread, casting a shadow over its authenticity and reputation.
There is so many fakes Kopi Luwak because the people who trying to make the money actually from it's not they are making fake Luwak coffee because the people know they are very expensive. That's why some people making the fake coffee. Yeah,
And other
and also in the if you go to the supermarket, it's not guaranteed that is 100% Luwak coffee because it's from the pricing, it's very low, and then also you can test it. If you come here, you can test it, and then you can compare, and the quality.
Once a rare delicacy collected from the droppings of wild civets, the production of Kopi Luwak has undergone a drastic transformation and the pursuit of profit. Today, the majority of Kopi Luwak is no longer sourced from the wild. Instead, it comes from farms where wild civet cats are captured, caged, and often subjected to grim and inhuman conditions. In a push to increase production, many of these animals are force-fed a diet of coffee cherries, with little regard for their health or welfare. On the Indonesian island of Bali, researchers from Oxford University investigated 16 plantations. What they found was disturbing. Civets were confined in tiny, filthy cages, some severely underweight, others obese and unable to move, many visibly overstimulated from a constant intake of caffeine. The cages, often no more than wire mesh boxes, offer no relief. It is a constant, intense source of pain and discomfort. Behind every cup of this luxury coffee lies an uncomfortable question. At what cost does indulgence come? The producer I talked to challenged this harsh reality that I found in articles, offering a different view on the practice of caging luwaks.
It's different. It's nothing different between Kopam and then also Luwak. So it's nothing different. Of course, we're taking care of our animal. So producing the good quality of the coffee, we don't force the animal to eat because we give them the coffee is just during the harvesting time. So the other day, so we just feed them like in the wild. They eat meat, they eat other fruit, so we feed them with those things. Beside only when the harvesting time, we give them the coffee, and then we can't push them to eat because they eat only what they need. That's all. So the reason also why the Kopi Luwak is expensive because it's very limited.
I was deeply grateful to Kutu for his candor and transparency. He spoke openly about the controversies, particularly the use of caged civets, an honesty that stood in stark contrast to the industry's usual silence on such matters. Yet, despite his transparency, I couldn't shake a lingering sense of discomfort. The image of wild luwaks, confined to cages, stayed with me. Unlike domesticated animals such as cows or chickens, these creatures were not suited for captivity. No matter how well some farmers might treat them, they remain wild at heart. The studies I had reviewed painted a grim picture. In most farms, conditions were deplorable. While I wanted to believe that Kutu's approach was more human than most, I knew that it was likely an exception rather than the rule. I began to wonder if any producers still adhered to the traditional ethical practice, collecting beans only from wild civets, roaming freely in the forest. But in a market where wild sourced is often used as a marketing tool to command higher prices, finding authenticity proved challenging. After extensive research, I came across a promising lead, a farm nestled in the highlands of Bali, known as Bali beans. The information available online suggested that they not only source their Kopi Luwak from wild civets, but were also engaged in a range of community-based initiatives, particularly those supporting local women. Intrigued, I placed a call. Shortly thereafter, I received an invitation to visit.
My name is Ayu Sudana. My family and I been growing coffee since 1985 and growing coffee in the most sustainable way. Long story short, my grandparents used to actually own a rice field. That time for them is so important to keep the rice field, obviously, because my dad has 12 siblings and a lot of like kids. So my grandparents' method was to grow rice bales so they can harvest rice, so then can afford to support their generation. But then when my dad took over the plantations, obviously the rice field, he was like not in fashion because a lot of farmers are actually doing the rice field, and then the way he does it, like he want to do something else, where he thinks like, what if they grow something else that could bring different revenue to the family. So my dad and my mom managed to convince my granddad to actually convert their rice field to become coffee plantation. And that's where we started. But so many years, my parents always uh, supplied to local broker. So then the local broker supply the coffee to different broker, and then those broker supply the coffee to exporter, and then the exporter actually supply the coffee to importer, and the importer distribute the coffee to coffee companies, and the coffee companies actually supply the coffee to coffee roaster, and then the roaster actually supply to kind of the restaurants, and then to you guys, to us customers. So it's quite long chains. And what changed today, since uh, obviously I started to kind of take over the family productions, and then that's where we come up the brand called Bali Beans Coffee. So we want to cut short all this journey, instead of like to go to so many different places or different brokers. It will come only directly from our farm to your cup straight away. So that's where Bali Beans is. Just that's what we are as a company.
For Ayu, Kopi Luwak is not just a way to make money. It is first and foremost a childhood memory. Picking up the luwak feces in the wild is something she has done since she was very little. She is really attached to this tradition, and for this reason tries to preserve it.
Well, I'll tell you a bit of a little story actually. During my childhood, this is one of my job, to collect coffee luwak under the trees while my parents is focusing picking up the red cherries of the trees. And for them, like for me not to disturb them while working, so, and for me, like it's just a short little girl, it was easier for me to roam around under the trees. And that time when the coffee luwak far away become, before it become commercialized, we used to give this coffee luwak as a wedding gesture to our family, our friends. And that's why my family well known to become one of the best coffee producers in Bali. And then obviously some few people took advantage of the selfishness of, when it become commercialized and cage the luwak. And this is not good. Just the reason being, the luwak is well known to have a really good nose. So the luwak can detect which cherry of the tree is the best one to be eaten. And then if you cage them, or the farmers cage them, they only eat what is given to them. Instead of like they can roam around freely around the trees, they're just gonna eat what is given to them. So this is not how, it's not ethical way to produce coffee luwak. At Bali Beans, we are sad, because this is my childhood memory that I had with my family. And then we love to keep it the same way. And I think because it's important, and we should be very privileged because Indonesia come up with this, and then if we know how to take care of the legacy of how the kopi luwak being processed naturally, traditionally, without caging the luwak. And coffee luwak should have been still the most expensive coffee in the world, which is now is one of the worst coffee in the world, and a lot of people, against it. But obviously, I understand a lot of people, they're not educated how the coffee luwak process used to be like traditionally. So here I am, sitting with you just to share like my childhood experience. And then I think we should keep it that way.
Nowadays, very few farmers still continue this tradition. It is after all very difficult to scale up, and furthermore it has become very rare to find luwaks in the wild.
A lot of farmers now, they chop up the trees, they plant vegetables. So our farm doesn't look like foresties anymore. It looks just Noah farm. Secondly, is that a lot of businesses, they hunt them so that they can cage them, so they can feed them with Kopi Luwak, so they can sell it for the money. And that's why, like, oh my God, 30 years ago, I used to be able to collect like at least 10 to 15 kilos a day of dropping luwak on daily basis during the harvest time. Today, we don't even collect one dropping. It's very sad, right?
Yeah.
You know, and then I'm like, for me, obviously, like having to live in Dubai for so long to come back to see this and all those, my childhood memories not there anymore, it kind of really sad. It just like, it broke my heart, you know, like, why are we doing this? Like to make a shortcut income so that you can enjoy, but you can enjoy the short term. But what if we just leave it the way it was? Maybe we can enjoy this legacy a bit longer. So yeah, and I just hope with this, you know, changes that I'm making here with women farmers, we're educating one by one. I think we need to start doing something out of it. And I'm not trying to change the world, but if I can try to change few people around me, actually it's the people that in my village and the women that I support. And then hopefully to bring back the image of Kopi Luwak.
Ayu has a very different opinion on the quality and taste of wild Kopi Luwak versus the one coming from caged civets. Unlike the first farmer we talked to, for her, there was no debate that wild Kopi Luwak was vastly superior. In a way, the condition of the animal clearly shows in the taste of this coffee, and the magic only happens when they are free and well treated. By caging the luwaks for profit, the very thing that makes this coffee so special disappears.
The cage one, is just normal, like coffee process, what we're doing processing normally. It's a very similar to honey. And then plus also, because they are not allowed to roam around and choose which cherry they like. So it's just like a normal coffee. That's why when people, you know, like hype, they want to try Kopi Luwak, when they go to these places where they cage the luwak and then they serve the coffee, it doesn't taste special anymore. If you are in the cage, you have no choices to eat what is given to you. So they don't use the nose then to predict which one is cherry, because they have no choice, because they're hungry. And they don't have chance. And plus also when you put them in cage, like example, like humans, sometimes we want to eat apple, sometimes we want to eat avocado, but they cannot do that. All they're given is like coffee. It's a mental health for the Civet luwak. If the Civet is not healthy, how do you think that coffee is going to be good quality?
Of course.
So, and example, like, you know, like it's mentally ill, because everything in our life is like, everything is in our brain. If our mental is not stable and sick, come on, this is not healthy. And I don't think that the fermentation is going to be healthy. The Civet is like, they're wild.
Yeah.
They're wild. It's not like a dog. The dog is well trained to be in someone's house and stay there and loyal to their owners, right? But Civet, nobody's seen it. All we're doing is like, we only collect what is they left us off. That's it.
Unfortunately, nowadays there is no way to ensure that a coffee that claims to be from wild civet actually is. No brand or quality control exists. Many farmers take advantage of this to sell caged luwak coffee for a premium, and the people sticking to the traditional method are few.
I think, proudly to say, we are probably the only one who really kind of taking care of this right now, or, you know, keeping the traditional way. And then just because in Indonesia, people busy to survive, you know, because we don't have much of kind of like job available, you know. So for them, it's just they're busy to survive, which is, I don't kind of blame them, you know. Like they do this because to live. So that's why it's like, I don't play the blame game. Everyone in it just to get something out of it, if that makes sense. And then all the reason is to survive. And we are in the wild jungle of life. And then if we don't do that, because we don't have retirement plans, we don't have healthcare. Like, not everyone got free healthcare, basically. So yeah, it's just, especially the farmers, we only depending on our crops. So yeah, we don't have chance to focus on certain thing like this. But what we do is like, we try, obviously, at Bali Beans, we try to be truthful to ourselves.
At Bali Beans, Kopi Luwak represents a very limited part of the revenues and isn't actually put forward by IU due to the limited supply, and also because she doesn't want it to become overly commercialized. They decided to focus on professionalizing and producing the best coffee possible. To achieve this, they got formed to the most advanced techniques and invested heavily in the most state-of-the-art equipments. Beyond Kopi Luwak, Bali Beans has also spearheaded initiatives to educate the local community and empower locals, especially women.
Yeah, so aside of we have a crop from our own plantation, but we work also closely with women farmers that came from the same village as us. The reason being because my childhood, way before I moved to different country outside of Indonesia, I was obviously grew up with these farmers. And then for me, I have seen different part of the world. But however, when I go home, when I see them, they are the same people that I know. And except like their life and health is dripping away just because they're not growing coffee, obviously. They are focused more like a fast-growing type of plants, which is kind of like vegetables like cabbage or tomatoes, which required like intensive growing methods. Means they have to use chemicals to protect these plants, but then they are not well trained how to use these chemicals. So during this spraying or spreading out the chemical, they never use like mass or like very well educated on to use it. So they're breeding to it. And then a lot of farmers that I grew up with, some sadly they pass away due to health issue like lung infections and so on. And in fact, like my old classmates at school at one time had to brought to hospital because she got poisoned because of the way they're breeding with these kind of things. And then at the same time, if you do that to your farm, obviously it kills a lot of things. The first thing is to kill the bees, and then it kills like the worm and the bird doesn't have food to consume. And it's just kind of like we killing to survive. It's basically like, we try to get rid of, like the worm example or other that could harm the harvest, but instead that we actually kill us slowly as a human to survive. So this is whereby I'm like taking the courtesy to like, oh my God, I want to change the way how the food chains work. I want to see the farmers to transiting the farming industry from short farming into longer term, where also to give them consistent income, like, by helping them to promote the product through Bali Beans Coffee. So, and then plus at the same time, they have to convert it, their farm to become like grown natural as possible so they can live longer. And it's not just good for them as a farmers, but it's good for us as consumers, because if you know where your coffee come from, how it's been farmed and processed, and make you feel much more safer to consume it, because coffee is part of like everyone's life right now. And I just think it's important for us to understand the process and the people behind it. So you feel more comfortable, because the one thing that we know as human, we invested something to ourselves, but we're not gonna harvest it now. We're gonna be harvested like 20 years down the line, and then maybe sometime it's too late to regret it what you consume. But now what we do is we're trying to change the habit of the way we farm things and slowly converting it to more like sustainable or the natural way.
Kopi Luwak remains one of the most controversial products in the world of coffee. While its unique origin and flavor profile continue to attract interest, the reality behind most of the Kopi Luwak on the market today is deeply concerning. The majority of beans now come from caged civets kept in poor conditions, an industry driven more by profit than tradition. Without clear traceability, consumers often unknowingly support practices linked to animal cruelty and environmental harm. Yet not all hope is lost. A small number of committed producers still honor the original method, sourcing beans from wild civet in a way that respects both the animal and the ecosystem. These efforts, though rare, show that ethical Kopi Luwak is possible. Rather than dismiss the product entirely, I believe it is more constructive to shine a light on these responsible practices and support initiatives that encourage transparency, animal welfare, and forest conservation. With greater education, stronger regulations, and conscious consumer choices, Kopi Luwak can evolve, not just into an ethical, acceptable luxury, but into a catalyst for protecting Indonesia's wildlife and combating deforestation. This is the potential future of Kopi Luwak, one where tradition and sustainability, human and nature, coexist.